It's okay. We can go ahead.
This is Joseph. Okay, I think we're ready to begin. We're really excited with tonight's program. We have a very important topic that's personal to me as well. It's teaching deaf youth about entrepreneurship. So we do want deaf youth to set up their own businesses and run those businesses, which is an important topic for me because at the Laurent Claire Center, I see many deaf youth that are wanting and desiring to be business owners in their future. So we're going to have an exciting discussion tonight. Before we start, though, let me share some technical information. Tonight's webinar is being provided via Zoom software, so do make sure that you have the most recent updated version of the software you can. You can also watch in full screen, which will result in the optimal view. You should be able to see a window with a PowerPoint slide in it and another window with 3 video conference windows inside of it. You can adjust both windows for different sizes. If you're having technical issues, go ahead and click into our chat box and we have CSD's tech team to be able to provide support for you if need be. And I want to get right to tonight's program. I want to introduce everyone here. I'm Joseph Santini. I'm Director of Instruction at the Laurent Claire Center here in Washington, D.C. And for tonight's webinar, I have 2 special guests. We'll start with Sean. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Sean. I wear a lot of different hats, but my hat here is that I work for Refort. I'm one of the founders, and I look forward to supporting you all and explaining my experience and see how that can improve education in the future.
Well, thank you for being here with us tonight, Sean.
My
And we've
pleasure.
got, yes, thank you. And we've got another presenter with us who's been really dear to CSD Learns because she's helped us with other programs. April, do you mind introducing yourself and telling us who you are?
Yes, hello. I'm happy to be here. My name is April Jackson Woodard, and my business is Colorful Locks. I specialize in hair, braiding, every type of hair locks, and I'm happy to share the story of my salon with you as well.
Well, I'm sure we're going to have an exciting time tonight. We've got 2 excellent deaf role models for our deaf youth throughout the country. And since we've started our series, we've been asked to provide financial educational webinars. And both Sean and April have tons of financial education experience in the sense that they've set up their own business. And so they will be part of our program tonight. Also, I would like to acknowledge our special team working in the background. We've got the image up on the PowerPoint. We've got 4 folks working hard to make sure that we have no tech issues tonight and that we have a smooth webinar. Let's take the time to thank all 4 of them. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Also, we want to extend our gratitude to 2 unique organizations. One is CSD Learns, by setting up an online learning platform for deaf and hard of hearing, providing instruction in sign language, accessible to all folks. Also, we want to thanks to Wells Fargo. Through their hands-on banking program, we've been able to have the funding to be able to provide this program and these webinar series nationwide. Thank you so much. Without both organizations, tonight would not be possible. Now, I do want to clarify why tonight's financial educational webinar series was founded. Well, one of the reasons is to address the needs seen across the country. In the United States, only 16% of students who attend, whether they be deaf or hard of hearing, receive financial education.
Wow.
Yeah, 16% is a small number. Also, we'd like to help improve the economic picture for deaf and hard of hearing people by spreading this financial education awareness. We also would like to support teachers, administrators, parents, social workers, and of course, deaf youth themselves. And lastly, we're aiming to create a space to learn from one another's experiences and exchange best practices for establishing their financial foundations. At the moment, the reason we're here tonight is to glean from Sean and April's experience and also to use their experiences to help our planning as educators. We want to bring the knowledge of experts to the deaf community, so I'm grateful to you both. Also, we want to give participants a chance to ask any burning questions you might have tonight. You will have an opportunity to ask Sean and April questions, and they will respond to your questions tonight. Also, we are here to share financial education resources, materials, and tools. So, folks, are you ready to begin?
Yes.
Okay, I do apologize. It seems technology is a little slow tonight. Let me get on the right slide. I have 3 questions I'd like to discuss real quick with you both. Why should we teach deaf kids to become entrepreneurs? First question I'd like to ask is, what skills do youth learn when they do learn about entrepreneurship? I'm curious. April, would you mind starting us off for tonight with some of your thoughts?
You want me to go ahead?
Sure.
Sure. The most important thing is to identify your skills and use the talents that you have and go forward and let that guide you in your learning towards your business future.
Sean, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think really what it came down to for me was soft skills, how was a leader, how I told my story, and through building those relationships, building a network was really important.
Fantastic responses. We'll explore more skills that are necessary as we continue tonight. So, as business owners, let me ask you, what are the benefits of owning your own business? Why would anyone want to have their own business? Sean, why don't you start this one?
Sure, really, there are two things. In terms of financial independence, that doesn't necessarily meaning just making a profit and doing nothing, but it's being able to really focus on what I'm already passionate about, then getting to the point where, yes, it is a job. And then, secondly, the friends that you make along the way is also important. I've made wonderful relationships and networks through that process that have been truly amazing.
Really neat, Sean. April?
What's most important is using my passion as a benefit to the community, finding ways that I can share my knowledge to benefit the community, which also in turn benefits my business, not just financially, but by being able to share my passion, help educate the community, inform them with different resources. That's it for me.
Wow, impressive response. Let me ask the last question I have for you both tonight. What's the most exciting part of owning your own business? What really thrills you? April?
Well, what's exciting is my customers learning something that they never knew before. And that just makes me even more excited to share more information. You know, when they take notes when I'm talking to them or inspires them to do more research, that is exactly what my goal is for them to get it, understand it, and use specific things that I consult them on for their hair.
Amazing response. Sean, would you like to add to that?
For me, really, there's never a boring moment. Every day is different. Every day brings different challenges, new perspectives, and experiences. That is what I enjoy the most.
Fabulous. Well, let's move on. Audience members, I do have a poll because I'm curious who's here with us tonight? Are you a parent? Are you a deaf youth yourself? Are you a social worker? Or are you an educator, a teacher as well? You should see the poll question populating on your screen. Sean, April, I'm curious, who do you think is the biggest group here tonight out of the 4?
This is Sean. I think teachers first and then deaf youth. Maybe those are the top two, I think.
All right, Sean, April?
I agree.
Okay, you both agree. Why not? Let's go ahead and show the results. If everyone's ready. Ah,
Yep,
so the results
teachers. We were right.
Yeah, 69% teachers. And right again, 25% deaf youth. Amazing. We've got one person who identified as a parent here. So, hey, good evening to you. Thank you for being with us tonight.
Awesome.
Okay, now let's focus on our first discussion question. I'll go ahead and ask the question and we'll have a discussion. During the discussion, the audience members, you can type in questions for Sean and April via the Q&A box. And if you see someone's question that you like, you can click like on their question if you'd like. And at the end of our conversation, we'll open up the floor and we'll answer your most burning questions. Is everyone ready? Okay. In that case, first question. Looking back, how did you first decide to set up your own business? And I think we'll start off with April to start off. April, how did it happen for you?
Sure thing. Looking back, I established my business in 2012. And that was
2012.
a, yes, it was a unique years after my graduation day and really during my upbringing. I started doing hair when I was 9, and I started with a small group of family and friends. Somehow in college, I really didn't have the time as a single mother with a baby, sororities, jobs, full time in college. I wasn't ready to announce that I could do hair and have a large group of people come to me. I just worked with a small group through my college days, and I remember one specific man on my graduation day. He loved his mom's hair that was long, my mom's hair. She had long dreadlocks, and he asked where she got her hair done, and she said, "My daughter." And so uh, we met one another, and he said, "Now that you're graduated, you have the time. Can you do my hair?" And I thought, no, in the back of my mind. But at the same time, I realized all of the information and resources that I have, I always want to share those with the community. I felt like it was important for me. It's my duty to do this. So I agreed to do his hair as a one-time thing, but he spread the word. He told everybody, go to April, and people came to me with different issues with their hair. They wanted to clean up, make their hair healthy, and everyone referred. I was referred to everybody. So yeah, that's where my business started in 2012.
Wow, the power of the community just rushing towards you and your business. Thank you for sharing that story. Sean, tell me what happened with your business. Was it a similar beginning?
No, I have a different story. I was a grad student, and I was planning on getting my master's degree in policy and politics, and I found out about a competition that I thought would be fun to join. Basically, it was having a green framing towards establishing a certain business, and the name of this was the Climate Thon. And so there was a team of us that came together. We were all deaf, trying to discuss how to solve a specific issue. We were surprised to win second place in this large group of students, and through that I realized this was something I could do. Then Gallaudet set up their business competition, and in that I came in third. Also, a lot of the audience members voted us as the audience favorite. And so I realized that people really liked us, and this is something we could do, not just for fun, but a lot of people believed in us. So I went ahead and applied for the Social Venture Fund under CSD, which is a really great program. Applied for that, gave a presentation. They awarded us with that partnership, and really, it started as a fun project, and I never expected my life would take this direction.
Wow. So, something I gleaned from what both of you said is how important it is to have someone who believes in you support you as well, right? April mentioned her mother, the community support. Sean, you mentioned something similar as well. Being DOI here at the Lauren Clare Center, it's important for me to remember those stories and those messages when I think of my students. I think it's significant for teachers to be there and support their students so they can have success. Now, let's give the audience a minute to ask us their questions. We do have two questions showing already in the Q&A box. The first question is from Martin Price. Thank you, Martin, for being here with us tonight. And Martin says, did either of you set up a business plan at all? Just curious.
Sean says, I did. Um, I used some different resources, but part of that business competition, we're expected to prepare a PowerPoint ahead of time and submit an application. In that application, they submit you to attach some type of business plan. You have to list out some things in specifics. I used a BMC, a business model canvas, which is really nice. It's a nice way to help you envision how to structure your business. That's what I ended up using and have used since.
Neat, Sean. April?
What was the question again?
The question was, when you set up your business, did you make a business plan? Just
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, I do have a business plan with finances, spaces, information that I need to know as a stylist in the state where I live. Yes, all of that information I have documented.
April, thank you so much. And it also seems like every state has their own rules and regulations when it comes to starting up a business. So it's critical to check into your state's laws about that.
That's
Second
true.
question. Yep. Second question from Christy Tolman. And Christy asks us tonight, when you were in high school, what's the lesson you wish you had learned? Again, in terms of running a business and so on. So maybe we can let Sean stew a bit and then have April answer this one.
Sure. Well, growing up, I never had the intent to establish a business, even though my family are, I have many business owners in my family. But looking back, my school had different business courses and courses that explain how to write a grant, for example, or to learn business writing and how to make a proposal for financing, not personal finance. It offered financial education, but I wish that there were courses more specific to business finance. Really a few more. Maybe Sean can add as well.
Please, Sean.
Sean says, I agree about financial education. That is crucial. Not only personal, but also being able to envision your business and what that looks like within a business. Also, critical thinking, I feel, is really important. Learning how I can connect what I learn in class in my, different subjects, English and math, but also connecting the two in an important way to know what my business value is, what my profit is, and be able to tell the story. That's important.
Amazing. April, go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to add, Sean mentioned his experience in college, setting up a business and having that competition. I feel like high schools should have something like that too, to help that growth and improvement happen in high school. Who knows? You could really thrive in that type of situation in college if you have that foundation in high school. They should set up a competition, I believe, for businesses and allow for creative thinking in that space.
And this is Joseph. Amazing idea. So teachers, if you're out there watching tonight, here we go, leaking ideas to you. Okay, couple questions left. I think I'll just select one because we're running out of time. I know that there's possibly 5 more or 500 more. So now we've got a question from Christy Buffington. It says, from Christopher Samp, says, when you set up your business, did you use any community resources to start your business? Or did you look into any grants, any SBA, small business support offices? What's your response?
Sean here. I used a private method because I wanted more, almost like a technical company in the startup world would do. I went through the university at George Washington University. And then my second business competition was at Gallaudet University. So Gallaudet had GIEI, Gallaudet Innovation and Entrepreneurship Institute, and I'm really thankful for that opportunity. We relied heavily on them through the process. And then the Social Venture Fund that I spoke about earlier under CSD. They have really supportive program there that I leaned heavily on as well. But when I got my first seed money, I was only 23. So I did not know what to do with it at the time, to be completely honest.
Sean, I bet that's a good story. April, what about your experience in that department?
No, I don't have any experience in that arena.
Okay, I see another question populating. We have a lot of questions tonight. We have an active audience. So the last question in terms of this discussion, in your opinion, both of you, what personality characteristics or traits are most important or most critical for a successful business owner? What type of personality should that type of person have? April, we'll ask you to start us off with the response.
Most importantly, you know, this is not necessarily for everyone, but for me, I feel like your knowledge and your what you exude allows people to trust you. The information that you have from what you've experienced, use that to market yourself, use your talents to market yourself and get out there. Basically, show that you know your stuff, and that will lead to people's trust.
April, that's great advice. Turning to you, Sean.
Sean saying I'd like to include two more things. Be creative, find creative ways to find money, find creative ways to frame your business and tell your story. Also, think in an assertive way. Be passionate. You know, if you want to change the world or address a specific thing, or you have an idea, a solution to solve a specific problem, be assertive with it. That's very important.
Wow. Thanks to both of you. Okay, we're ready to jump into our second discussion question at this point. And there it is. Okay, so our second question for tonight. Remember, looking back when you set up your business initially, what were the biggest challenges you faced back then as a business owner? What were your frustrations? Sean, go ahead and start us off.
Sure. Really, there's three main things: resources and the internet. Luckily, I could depend on Gallaudet and on Social Venture Fund. But when I was starting off, not knowing where to go, when I had a specific question, if I tried to type it and Google it, it was hard to find. So having resources and the internet, information on the internet is crucial. Secondly, was realizing I learn as I go. And at that time, I was a grad student for policy. My business focus was being eco-friendly. I had to learn that and really study it as on the go, on the job. The third one was managing, juggling many different things at once, learning how to prioritize things and have good time management, figuring out how to manage my time and accomplish certain things that were most important.
Amazing, Sean. April, would you like to add to Sean's message?
I have some similarities with what Sean said, but in the beginning, the biggest challenge was, being deaf and having customers who were hearing and making them feel comfortable with me, being able to discuss their hair needs with them. And, some people were completely unfazed, and other people, taught me how to address and talk with people differently. I identify myself as deaf on my business card, so I would find out if they were okay with that or not. Really, it was up to them if they want to receive my services. And then another part was financing. Some spaces are really expensive. I had to decide if I wanted to rent a salon space or use my personal home and create a salon space there. I had to figure out what my style was, and eventually it took time to learn and make the right decisions. I went from facing challenges to learning to make the right decisions. It was a positive journey and transition. I think that's about it.
This is Joseph. Wow, I never even thought about that. But yeah, to provide services like that, how to interact with hearing customers, that can be very challenging. Wow. I'm curious, Sean, did you face any similar challenges in communication with hearing customers in your business?
In some situations, yes. In other situations, no. My main focus is on technology and online. Typically, people buy things online through our website, so there wasn't a lot of interaction, mostly email, but some people do prefer to make a phone call. So we would use VRS, and sometimes they would be unsure about that and think it's a scam and hang up. We have to send them we tell the interpreter not to announce themselves as an interpreter. I'd send an email to try to explain it, call and say, "This is Sean, I'm just calling you through an interpreter." But I'd say, in general, don't be afraid to, have conversations, find creative ways, write with a pen and paper. That's typically my tendency anyway. April says, I second what Sean said. Yeah, I second that.
I like what you said, Sean, about using relay and asking the interpreter not to announce. That way you can get your foot in the door, right?
This is April. Oh, yes, I do that all the time. It can be
Okay,
quite irritating.
I'm sure. Well, let's look towards the audience and see if they have any questions for you in terms of your challenges that you faced when you started your business. It looks like we have three already. Okay, first question again from Bryn Matsuoka. Hi, Bryn. Bryn's question is for Sean specifically. Bryn says, Sean, I'm curious what tools you use to develop your BMC.
Well, the internet is an amazing place. You can Google information and have 30 different resources. There's also YouTube tutorials. Many are captioned, which are great. Others are auto captioned, which are not so great. But really, I had to rely on myself to do my own research. And then eventually, after the first year, I could rely on um, the internet. But yeah, in the beginning, I had to just be very assertive and figure it out myself.
Well, yeah, we have a list of questions for both of you. The next one says, what do you feel helped your business become successful? What characteristic helped your business become successful? I'll ask April to respond first this time. I'm real curious, April, your thoughts.
Really, resources are key. Without resources, your business cannot be successful. So I'm always talking about knowing your stuff, but really that all comes down to resources and how you present yourself as a business owner. Once you have that, you're golden.
Uh-huh.
This is Sean. I agree. My most important resource is my team. There's a team of three of us who are founders. We're able to share ideas with one another. We all come from different backgrounds. So that resource of having each other to be able to talk things through is really important.
Neat, both of you. Wow. Last question. And it comes from Katrina Senna. And she says, when you set up your business, how did you determine the value or the pricing for your services? I'm curious because that is a good question. Sean, do you mind starting this one?
Sure. Really, I have 2 points. There's two different ways to do it. My team has done both ways. But first, you can figure out to make that amount, how many hours that requires, and the average charge for labor. So let's say I envision myself working 2 hours. You have to figure how much money you would pay a person to work for 2 hours, plus supplies and overhead, meaning all those little costs like electricity and everything. The second way to look at it is by market cost. You look and do the research and find other businesses that are of the same type and sort of as yours and find out what they charge. My perspective on that is your ultimate cost is somewhere in between those two, your own personal cost to make that and the market cost. And you should fall somewhere in between.
Wow, Sean, it seems there's a lot of research involved in that process, but it's critical as well, huh?
For sure.
April?
I have almost the same answer as Sean, except for me, I don't have a team. Everything I do is on my own. And right, I have to figure out supplies and product that I use, and also my time, my hours, and other things that I need to do. I have to make sure I manage my time well. That all of those pieces are important. I would agree.
Wow, both of you have had to put in so much research to get your business set up, it seems like, right?
Hmm.
Yep, and we have two more questions come up. One is from Guthrie Nutter, and Guthrie asks, what allocation do you set up to reinvest into your business? So if you were to do this again as well, how would you change that? Or what would you change? I'm curious. April?
You know, I've never thought about what I would do if I did it all over again. There are some things I would definitely do better because you learn the first time. You learn through your mistakes. And of course, if you had to do over again, you would do better. So, what would I do better? I would have the finances ready because it took me a while to have everything, to get everything. So, I would have the finances set and ready to pay for everything and have everything set up. I had to do things little by little. And, as income came in, I purchased things as I would go. Many businesses do it that way as well, but it would be nice to have everything ready from the start.
That's a good response, April. Thank you. Sean, is your experience similar?
Yeah, my experience was a little different. My first year in business, we did a pilot. We just were testing out our business concept, and 100% of our profit went right back into the business. And so, as a broke grad student, I was already used to living without any money. So, I got along just fine. So, yes, what I would do differently is the same thing that April said. I would have things figured out as far as my startup costs, my business license costs, all of those actual costs. So, when it was time, I could just pay them instead of facing different roadblocks again and again and figuring it out as I went.
So it seems like it's very critical to set up some sort of financial support for your business before you start running your business. Great advice. Got to keep an eye on the clock. And we have more questions. However, we have to move on. So I do apologize, but you will have an opportunity to ask more questions later on in the webinar. So I'll move the slides forward. And we're moving on again to our next discussion question. Again, as you look back to your academic years, school, elementary school, high school, any of those, what skills did you learn from school that you feel benefited you the most in business and to today? So for this question, again, I'd like to start with April.
As a business owner, I am so excited to know that I had already taken some business classes that benefited my business. Even though my major was business administration, I am just so thankful because business is truly so broad. So it's nice to have specific knowledge in accounting, finance, business law, economics. Those courses really, I'd have to say. Oh, and intro to business, of course. Also investments. Yeah, there really were many. And that's in college. Now in high school, I took accounting. And yes, accounting and basic finance. It was more related to personal finance. Like I said, I wish they offered business. Um, but really, yeah, based on what they offered in high school, that's what I took.
April, you're lucky to be able to have some courses at least at the high school level. As a director of instruction, I see this as a learning opportunity for myself that I can apply at the Lauren Clark Center. Sean, go ahead.
I agree with April 100%. I took a lot of economics and statistics classes at the grad school level, but in general, I wish that I learned more about, specifically about finances. For me, it was a little bit different. The school or the classes that benefited me, I think, were learning critical thinking skills and learning how to think objectively and looking at the bigger picture. Like I said, not just the two subjects individually, but how they link with one another. Those soft skills of, conflict resolution. Because I work within a team, there are times we disagree. So it's important to know how to keep that relationship strong and not, break apart because of a disagreement. That's really important.
Right, this is Joseph speaking. I think soft skills are really necessary right now. April, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
Yes, typically in classes you have group discussions and you learn to work together as a team. That teamwork skill building is important. If you own a business, you have to learn to agree to disagree with people, and still respect one another.
Right, thinking of the process, then it's important to get our deaf youth mature, right? They need maturity. Well, anyone who wants to run a business needs to be a mature person. Now we'll open the floor back up to the audience so they can ask questions to both Sean and April in regards to what you learned at school and how it benefited you the most. We have 6 questions already, Sean and April. I'll start with the first one. And this is related more to setting up your own business. The question says, did you experience any deaf peers telling you that you couldn't do it? And if you did, how did you deal with it? Why don't we start with you, Sean, for that question? What type of peer pressure did you experience?
Well, it's interestingly enough, I had an opposite experience. My network of friends, my community, were all very supportive. All three of us founders are deaf, and support one another and lift each other up. So we're unique in that respect. But I'd say anyone who's negative, just ignore them. Continue on doing your thing, and don't be afraid to take a risk. Also, don't be afraid to fail, too. You'll learn important lessons.
April.
What's the question again? I'm sorry.
This is Joseph. Yeah, sure, no worries. The question was, did you experience any deaf peers, any friends who told you couldn't start your own business?
Yes, thank you. As a black woman, oh yes. Yes, I got a lot of negative reactions like, really? Can you do that? You have kids. How are you going to figure out your schedule? That kind of thing. I'm like, well, I can manage my time. It's more important that I take the risk. If I have the desire and passion for this, then I am going to take it. I am taking it. If you're passionate and you want this, you take it too.
Yes.
If people try to tell me I can't do it and oppress me, you gotta just shake that off. Be mentally strong. I don't let any negativity get through to me. Don't let it get through to you either. Keep going. And of course, it's a struggle. All businesses go through a struggle. But the more people, even, close friends, I'll have disagreements with, will learn to, settle them and get over them. We still love each other. And then they see it through what I've done, and they've all turned around to congratulate me. And in the back of my mind, I knew I could do it. And it all comes back to your attitude. If you're unsure of yourself, then it may not be for you. But if you have a positive attitude, keep going, go for it.
Amazing response, April. This is critical for our deaf youth to see. Thank you so much for that. Okay, this is Joseph still. Let me move on to the next question. Question says, just curious what your thoughts are with current deaf youth and your perspective. What skills are lacking in relation to business? And the person that asked is Christy. She's an educator herself. So she'd like to know, what should she focus on when she teaches her deaf youth in her class? April, do you want to respond to her?
Woo, that makes I'm a mom of two, and what I feel like children are lacking are being able to communicate and express themselves.
Right.
To be able to say what they want, to be able to say if they're afraid. Sometimes teachers, go through what they teach, and they don't necessarily help children be able to unpack and explain, the feelings and ideas that they have. And I think, when it comes to diversity, Black, Hispanic, maybe Asian, but people of color, Latino, other people from other countries where communication is not strong, maybe because of their families or they're mainstreamed in school. Really, it comes down to what type of teachers are they having, that could be an impediment to them. If they come from a deaf family, all families are diverse. All students come from diverse backgrounds, but really it comes down to teachers.
April, your words ring so true. I remember growing up, I had no representation. I didn't see anyone that was similar to me until I got into college. Sean, what are your thoughts on this?
Thank you for that comment. I really think the number one thing to teach is independence and being assertive. Like you said, just take it, April. Teachers need to teach their students how to do things independently on their own. Maybe they're interested in something, they want to learn about something specific. Know that they can do that, do the research on their own and not depend on anyone else. Encourage that spirit of independence. Also, going back to soft skills, problem solution, talking with customers, all of that is important.
April, go ahead.
I'd like to add, I remember back in high school, I'm sure many people learned resume writing in high school. That's where you learn how to market yourself, right? And you write down former jobs or the current job that you have, maybe through your sophomore, through senior year. Freshman, maybe if you're lucky, but mostly through your sophomore and senior years. It's when you work and you fill out your resume. You think about if you want to work with a business owner or become a business owner yourself. There's two different paths, but the resume really hits both tracks. In my experience growing up, my teachers never talked about, this is making me realize that my teachers never asked me if I wanted to own a business or what I wanted in the future. For example, if I wanted to work for the government. My teacher never said, okay, well, if you want to work for the government, April, have you considered, maybe pursuing a field in business? Instead, we're of only focused on the government track, not realizing what other options are out there. It doesn't hurt to show the student that.
Sean, go ahead.
Yeah, one quick thing to add to what April's saying. I grew up in the Bay Area, which is, a technical hub. And some of my friends' parents set up their own businesses. Others worked for large corporations like Apple and Google. So I grew up in that culture of that can-do attitude. And right, I agree. It's so important to tell a student that they can do it. Believe in your students. That's truly important.
And this is Joseph. Wow, you both make some important points very clear to us. Thank you so much. And again, audience members, I'm so sorry. I got to keep moving along because our time is precious and short. I think folks are really getting a lot out of this. Thank you both. And it hasn't got, here we go. It's gone now. Our next discussion question number 4. Now we're talking outside, external to your school year. No more academic days. But outside of school, where did you learn the most about setting up your business? Was it through friends? Was it through another business owner? I'm curious. Sean, start us off for this one.
Yes, I have 3 things. Really, the most important place I learned was on the job.
Uh-huh.
It's important that you proceed with an open mind and learn from other people, learn from your team, also learn from your customers as well. Sometimes they have really good perspectives on things that you wouldn't see otherwise. Secondly, grow your network, and through your network, luckily I went to Gallaudet. I played football. I was involved in student body government. I was always participating in different things, and later on I realized that, oh, this person owned a business. This person specializes in finance, so I had people I could reach out to with specific questions. The third is the internet. We have access to amazing technology, so just do your own research and assert yourself there. Although lots of people have different experiences, different perspectives, different types of businesses that you can learn from online.
That's a great response, Sean. April, can you add to that?
I have to second what Sean says, especially the internet.
Uh-huh.
I did go to many trainings, and I learned, how to set up a business. I went to entrepreneurship trainings and workshops. Not just that, but the internet is key. The people who I know that have set up a business that I want to emulate, I also would ask them questions. All of these people were hearing. I didn't know of any deaf business owners, but the hearing folks that I knew, I asked many questions to.
And that's critical, I'm sure, being able to ask those questions and get those answers. Now, I'm curious, those workshops you mentioned, April, where did you find them? At Gallaudet or where?
Well, for Gallaudet doesn't have any workshops specializing in hair. However, where I live is in DC, Virginia, Maryland area, which is a very, very great community for hair. I feel very fortunate to live in the area. Maryland and DC are very, very strong hair communities, if you will.
It's nice that you're in a hotbed like that where your community is your resource. Okay, well, let's turn it over to the audience and see what questions they have in regards to what you learned outside of school. We'll open up the floor and let me see the questions here. Okay, I see a great from Christy Buffington. And that question is, how important were deaf role models for you in setting up your own business? So I'm wondering, did either of you have a deaf role model? Sean?
Yes, sure. So fortunately, one of my business partners, his father owns a business too, and his father's deaf as well. And so his family has that can-do mindset, and that kind of mindset is important. Again, Gallaudet as well, that competition I was a part of. There were a lot of alum that were part of it, or graduates who had started their own business. For example, Streetcar 62, they're a brewery. It's very good, I have to let you know. But they dove into learning about beer and they established a good quality business. And so learning from that, I saw that's something I could do as well. Yeah, so having role models like that are crucial.
Sean, it's great to hear. April, what about your experience?
I was going to say no, I couldn't think of anything, but yes, I remember something. Growing up, there was a woman who was hearing. Her name's Paula Schaefer, and this was her sign name because her hair was always braided. Paula was her sign name. Anyway, she would make appointments for my mom and sister. I'd go in and I'd watch and I'd always analyze people because I didn't have communication access. I would just sit and watch people. And that truly is the deaf experience, right? Is we just watch people.
Right.
So I watched how she interacted with customers, interacted with them to see what their clients wanted. I tried to lip read, I could just kind of guess and use common sense to figure out what was being said. And I realized that she was a sole business owner. And then she moved over to another salon, shared a space with other stylists. And then after that, she was alone again. And I asked why she preferred to be alone, and she says she liked the independence of being able to do things herself. And so from that I realized, she encouraged me. She said, you can do whatever you want. If you want to own a business, you can do it. And that always stuck with me through my life. And now we're friends on Facebook, and she's still running the same business. She used to own a business, and then she was no longer doing hair. Instead, she was teaching a school for stylists. And, she would teach the proper products and proper techniques. And I found out she was teaching in Dallas, Texas, and that was such an inspiration. Seeing her work and now seeing what she's doing, she still does hair part-time, and that really has stuck with me. And I try to do the same. I try to teach people how to take care of their hair and do their hair. I have to say it all goes back to Paula. She was my role model.
Again, April, another fascinating facet of your life you've shared with us. Thank you so much for that. And of course, we do have many more questions. I think I can take one for this particular discussion point, but we will have to move on. So the question says, just curious if either of you know if there's any opportunities for deaf students throughout the country or in college, high school age, where they can have a program that they can learn about business. Sean? April? The question again, April, is if you're aware of any opportunities for deaf youth to become familiarized with businesses?
This is Sean. I would say internships are important. I was very much into policy and politics. I wrote actually a bill that was submitted to DC Council. But prior to that, really what led up to that point was an internship. I had maybe 4 to 6 internships really in policy. And the first one was for Congress. That is when I realized I learned how Congress actually functions. So really, I'd say any internships that can get your hands wet, hands dirty, so to speak, take it. You know, even if it's a boring desk job where you're just inputting information, the experience and what you'll learn is worth it. So put in the work there, and internships are a great place to start.
Fantastic, Sean. April, can you add to that?
I got to second what Sean says. Again, internships are key. If it's something you want, go for it. Find a business owner that you can intern with, learn how they run their business, and have them mentor you. Not just as an intern, but really, yeah, I'd say the mentorship system. Have someone you can ask questions of that can share ideas with you and even give you small tips, maybe even big tips that could really help you excel. But having a mentor, someone with similar interests that can mentor you, is crucial for a young person starting out.
That's great information, April. Go ahead, Sean.
I also want to add now with COVID-19, there's a lot of new things popping up, and so again, the internet is your best friend. There are a lot of internships and jobs that are shifting to online. So even if you live in a rural area or you don't have access to many things, utilize the internet.
And this is Joseph. Something else I'd like to add is also for families to consider. If maybe through family relatives, you can have an internship program. I know that the Lauren Clerc Center, we work hard on setting up internship programs for students.
That's great.
And I do know of TSD, Texas School for the Deaf, has a wonderful intern program in terms of technology. So parents, you do want to look around at your school and find out what they offer to support your deaf youth in their future. And we've reached our second poll for the night. This question is really asking about your school in particular, where you're at. It could be your children's school or your school. Well, what type of entrepreneur education is offered at your school? And again, this is a multiple choice poll, so go ahead and select as many as there are. So if your school offers financial education classes, internships, or mock business running, perhaps, or nothing at all. The question should be on your screen now. Please click your answers. I know that at my school, we have 3. Sean, do you remember, had 3? Do you remember how many of these they offered at your school?
My high school had one somewhat of a financial education. Really was general. Uh, I actually was mainstreamed
Okay.
in high school in the Bay Area, but I really do wish that I had April's experience in finance and accounting in high school. That's the best, and wish I had that.
April, how do you respond?
Same with Sean. I was mainstreamed in Blue Springs, which is just outside of Kansas City, Missouri. Yep, went to mainstream school. Didn't have a lot of courses in that realm, but I did have finance and accounting. Finance is on that list, but again, it was more like personal finance, somewhat accounting. I really wish I could take something like mock business or internships. That would have been great.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what the audience says. Let's see the results now. Wow, interesting results. 44% of the participants said that their school does offer financial education courses. Wow, that's good to know. That's a lot better than the national average. Again, the country is sitting at a 16%.
Yes.
Internships come in at 39%, also a high number. Mock businesses coming in really high at 44%. Wow,
Wow.
amazing numbers. Yeah. Although we do have 39% coming in with nothing. Well, that means there's room for improvement. That's what that means.
Yes.
Okay, our next discussion question for tonight, moving the slide forward, is right in front of us now. And the question says, if you could go back in time, what would you choose to study to better prepare you for the business world you're in now? What would you add to your life back then? And again, April, we'll start with you tonight because I'm really curious what your thoughts are.
Well, I majored in business. I would say having competitions, just like Sean mentioned. He was involved in various competitions at my time. Uh, I was grandfathered into the program. We didn't have business competitions, but now going forward, I think as of 2 years ago, they started to have competitions. And oh, I'm so jealous. I wish I was a part of that. If they had that at my time in school, I for sure would have started my business in my college days. I would have had a business right away. I wouldn't have waited until I graduated. So really, I'm envious of those who have that opportunity, and it's key to have that entrepreneurship competition. Really, that would have, helped me also with all of my studies. That would have just set me on fire.
Amazing, April. Sean, how do you reply?
Again, accounting and finance. I wish I learned more uh, about those. Also, business writing. Well, I love to write, but when it comes to telling my story, I wish I could do a better job with that. Giving presentations, persuasive speeches. It's pretty nerve-wracking and it's a lot of work, so I wish I had some more practice before showing up and giving a presentation. I wish I could feel more comfortable, and at ease with the extra practice. So I do think it's important, like you said, that you follow your passion first. Just like April mentioned, if you're knowledgeable about a certain topic, people will follow your lead. They'll look up to you as an expert. Rather than, if you know how to run a business, it's important you follow your passion in that. Learn something about what you're interested in and yeah, follow that passion.
Right. Go ahead, April.
I want to add to what Sean said. I'll give you an example. Let's say you want to set up a car wash business, but you don't clean your own car and you don't even purchase cleaning products for your car. Why would you want to own a car wash business if you don't do that for yourself personally? It's that would be a complete conflict if people saw your dirty car and you're advertising your car wash business. Don't be a conflict. Advertise what you love, what you're capable of, and what you're good at. Market yourself. Plain and simple.
That is fantastic. I've learned two important things from both of you. One is that there are a tremendous number of skills involved in being a business owner. It's not just running a business, there's presentation, there's marketing, there's forecasting. So there's a lot involved. Great advice. We have 7 questions from the audience. We're going to try to work through as many as we can. And let me just move the slide forward. Okay, so the questions are in. Back when you set your business, what mistakes did you make and which ones were the ones you learned the most from? And how did you benefit from those mistakes? So I'm real curious to your responses to this question. Sean?
Yeah, sure. I've made a lot of mistakes. I could list them all off, but number one thing was doing my homework. I really wish I did more research. There were a lot of things that I just went ahead and did and then hit a roadblock. But if I had taken research more seriously, I wouldn't have faced that roadblock. I would have known what to do, to jump the hurdle. So that's something I would say. Learn business requirements, business license information. There's also learn about your industry or sector, the field that you're in, and make sure that you know that inside and out to avoid frustrations. That really was my biggest mistake. But of course, I learned from that mistake, and I've done well since.
April, tell us your biggest mistake.
We're all human. We all make mistakes. It's okay. It's important you learn from your mistakes and get better. So, if I give some wrong information that maybe doesn't apply to the particular customer I'm giving it to, later on, maybe a few minutes later, I'll realize it and I'll correct myself, or I'll just admit, oops, I made a mistake. It's important that I'm open and honest and I communicate, you know what, I was wrong, but I found some better information and then I fix it.
Wow, that is such an important lesson. And this is Joseph speaking. In terms of making a mistake and acknowledging that we're human and we all do that, right? Some people make mistakes and then they become depressed and give up on life, and things become a mess, right? We all have to understand that it's okay that we make mistakes. We just have to move forward and learn from them. What a powerful lesson. Thank you both. Okay, I've got to move us forward to the next discussion question.
That was a good question, says April.
Yeah, that was. Uh, Now, our question is, as teachers, we've got to prepare our deaf youth for the future. We've got to prepare them for what's to come, right? We know that if our students are in high school, they'll be transitioning near soon in the near future. So talking about maybe 5 years out or 10 years out and thinking about which fields are ripe for deaf to be a part of. This question here asks that. So what careers do you see ripe for deaf development in the next 5, 10 years? Sean?
Sure. I actually have two answers to that question. Number one is technology, not just coding, knowing how to code, but a general knowledge of how to use technology, computers, laptops. If there's a problem, knowing how to solve it. Right now, there's so many resources available online. There's many different available websites that you can develop easily. There's lots of tools out there to teach you how to create a website. So yeah, use that information. And secondly, specifically for the deaf community, is in terms of media and film. Deaf people are people of the eyes. So we have vlogs, we use sign language. We already have skill in some levels in regards to signing and filming. That's something that we're always going to need is, film and filmography. So I think that's a very important field.
Okay, we've hit 8 p.m., so we do have to wrap things up. April, share your thoughts, and then I'll have to wrap things up for tonight because we're actually out of time.
Sure. One course on my mind is entrepreneurship, an entrepreneurship course in high school. I think that would be a great start for high schoolers to take something like that. And just like Sean mentioned, yes, I have to agree. Here's my phone. My children are 14 and 7, and they use laptops, iPhones, iPads. Not my 7-year-old, he's too young, but
Good to hear.
let me correct myself. But yeah, he is able to use different devices and he's signing at his devices and acting things out. It's all about media, it's visual. Um, he's able to pull in and engage an audience and, film things, and people learn from one another in that way. It's a very visual form. Instead of text, which can be tiring on the eyes, sign language is, a breath of fresh air.
Mm-hmm.
Use whatever is visual for deaf children and you will have them. You'll have their attention. Right now, they have a story app.
Right.
Actually, let me backtrack. Let me back up. So with books, learning English, that's important. Leapfrog, which is a really good program for children, but it's auditory based. There's no equivalent. It's not visual enough for deaf children. But now there is a signing app, and it has grown in use. And deaf and hearing children can use it and enjoy it. It benefits everyone, but the focus is for deaf children, and it's all visual. So again, media is just so popular right now, and especially within the next 5 to 10 years. In my time, in Joseph's time, Sean's time, we didn't have resources in sign language. Sean, yeah, I know. Sean and I, we didn't have anything in sign language. So my children are already set up for a better future, and it's amazing.
So true for sure, says Sean. And this is Joseph. I love hearing about that app. It's the VL2 from VL2, that Storytime app. That's amazing. It's Motion Light Labs is operating that currently. So you folks have to get out there and take a look at those apps. I'm really sorry, folks, for tonight. We ran out of time.
No.
I know the audience wanted to ask more questions, but I do have to wrap things up. So let me get to my last slide here. First, again, it's important to remember after the webinar tonight, we do have some teacher learning resources that will be shared. We have resources on this PowerPoint here that we are also sharing. Again, I'd like to thank Sean and April for their information that they've shared tonight. And moving forward, I do want to mention that we will be releasing a new toolkit from CSD Learns soon. That toolkit will be in regards to dealing with debt, a course that was recently released. That toolkit is nice because it includes a lesson plan, which are aligned to the Common Core standards in order to help teachers include our courses in their school instruction. So make sure you get your eyes on that toolkit. Lastly, I'd like to extend some gratitude to our wonderful presenters tonight. Sean, April, cheers to you. I really enjoyed our conversation. I know that you definitely provided benefit to the teachers and deaf youth that were here tonight. We'd like to thank CSD Learns for this series, this financial educational webinar series. Thank you all for being here tonight.